Good evening. Coming to you from a vehicle again because it's the quietest place for me to video, and my daughter's at dance class. I had an interesting session with a speech therapist this week. I had to go with one of my students yesterday. Actually, in another part, I have a huge classroom. He actually used to be an old gym locker room. But the way it's set up, I had an area where we could take him because he has a horrible time with transitions. So most of the time, our OTs and SLPs and PTs, they come to me for him especially. Needless to say, we ended up sitting on a tile floor for 30 minutes and doing this therapy session because that's where we could get him to do it. But I think if I had someone who didn't understand why students need speech language pathologists, I would say, well, you've never been around a child who can't communicate. Working in a special ed classroom with children who have communication needs and seeing how frustrated they get at times when they can't communicate with you just tells me how important it is for these kids to get referred, especially when they can talk or they can't talk. They can talk with limited proficiency, I should say. It's very important that we get them into that therapy that they need so that they can communicate what they need. They can tell you when they're hungry. They can tell you when they're mad. They can tell you when they're sick. They can tell you when they're tired. It's very difficult for a child who can't communicate or even carry on a conversation with you like a normal person who doesn't have speech language disorders. I see several problems in this day and age with this field. The main one is that there just aren't enough. There aren't enough people in this profession. We have 2 therapists to cover our entire school system. And while our school system would be considered to be a small school system, we still have a lot of kids who need this therapy. They're split between schools. They're traveling all week. They're in one place one day and one place the next. And when you do that and you still have a growing number of kids who are being referred and you don't have enough people to cover them, the kids are going to suffer in the end. And I think that's one of the main roadblocks. I think we need to see more people going into these therapy fields, speech, occupational therapy, ABA. I see it more so with speech than any of it these days, especially where I work. I really hope we have more people coming in to provide these services for these kids. You know, it's just a lack of people to cover everywhere, even with special education teachers. I was a general ed teacher. He was pretty much begged to come in and change fields from general ed to special ed because they just didn't have special education teachers. The same thing is going for speech language pathologists and all the other therapists that we need to provide these children with what they need.